So I wanted to give an overview of all the grants and payments and supports that are currently available as a result of the COVID-19 lockdowns. So what I'm going to talk to you, I'll go through a quick overview of the supports available, but then more importantly, I'll talk to you about really what businesses can do to make sure they've got everything available before they apply. What's really critical is that you check your eligibility, and you do that by going to our website, which is service.newsouthwales.gov.au. Really have a look through, check your eligibility, and then make sure you've got everything you need before you apply. I will be quite honest, they're quite complex, some of these grants and some of the requirements. If you don't meet them straight up, can be a little bit complex as well. So you may need to go to your accountant or tax agent to talk through some of those requirements and eligibility, what you need to apply. And you may need to get some evidence from them as well. So the first grant I'll talk about is what's called the COVID-19 Business Support Grant. Now, this was a one-off grant to cover that first few weeks of lockdown. So from the 26th of June to the 17th of July. And this is for businesses who've got an aggregated turnover between $75,000 and $50 million for the year ended 30th of June 2020. And there are 3 different grant amounts depending on the decline in that turnover. And you can see those up on the slide there. So just a thing to note, that if you don't meet all the eligibility criteria that on the website, you still may be able to apply for that grant if you've got evidence to support those alternative circumstances. And those circumstances are outlined in the guidelines on our website. We've also got for each of these grants some frequently asked questions and some scenarios which address some of those commonly held concerns and questions. The scenarios are really good, so I'd suggest having a look at those as well. The second support that we've got is called Job Saver, and this is to kicks in after that initial 3-week period of time, the period between 26th of June to 17th of July. If you've applied for the business support grant, you still have to apply for Job Saver. There's not an automatic transfer from one to the other, so you still have to apply for the Job Saver payment. The idea of this is to help businesses to survive and to maintain relationships with your employees and be in a position to trade when the restrictions are lifted. There have been some recent changes, mainly to the cap. So originally it was $75,000 to $50 million, but now that's gone up to $250 million. And businesses have to have experienced a decline in turnover of 30% or more due to the public health order over a minimum 2-week period that commenced on the 26th of June 2021. You'll get Job Saver allows for fortnightly payments, and that's to help maintain your employee headcount. And those payments are based on 40% of a business's weekly payroll. And the payments range from $1,500 to $100,000 per week. If you're a non-employing business, a sole trader, for example, you can receive a $1,000 weekly payment. And again, there are guidelines on our website to help you calculate your payroll amounts. If you're receiving Job Saver as a business owner, your employees can still receive the Commonwealth Government's COVID-19 disaster payment. The third grant I want to talk about is what's called a micro business grant, and that's for businesses with a turnover between $30,000 and $75,000 for the year ended 2020, and who also experienced a 30% decline in turnover. This grant can be used for business costs that incurred from the 1st of June 2021. There's a couple of things you need to think about before you apply. if you commence trading after July 2020, you may be required to provide an alternative comparison period or alternative supporting evidence. Non-employing businesses aren't eligible to apply for this grant if anyone associated with the business is receiving the Commonwealth COVID-19 disaster payment. I just want to go through now some of the things that you need to have before you apply. What I'd urge you, and as I've said before, is please check your eligibility. There's a lot of information on our website, and if you go through that eligibility and what evidence is required, that will save a lot of time in terms of getting your application processed. A lot of the delays have been because people didn't have the required evidence, and we've had to go back and forth with them. Once you're ready to apply, make sure you've got 2 forms of identification, such as your driver's license or a Medicare card, your ABN details, and any supporting evidence documentation. As a first step, you need to set up a My Service New South Wales account. And once you've logged into that account, you can access your business profile. The business profile's a really good service because you can track the progress of your application. So I'd encourage you to complete that as well. You'll also need to provide evidence of your business's annual turnover and loss of income. All the evidence requirements, again, are up here on the slide, but also on our website as well. We've also been working quite closely with our accountant and tax practitioner peak bodies. And so they understand all the intricacies and what those evidentiary requirements are. And don't forget your bank details so we can pay you. Okay, so I did want to go on just a little bit further. There's some additional business supports as well that I've put up here. You may know about some of these already. So we have the small business fees and charges rebate, and that's to help with paying government fees and charges. There's also payroll tax support available. There's importantly support with business tenancy. So at the moment, landlords can't evict a residential or commercial tenant without going through a mediation process, and that's through the Small Business Commission. And there's land tax relief for landlords who have tenants in financial distress. This week as well, actually late last week, a new payment was launched that I wanted to let everyone know about. It's called Test and Isolate. And that's for workers who are from the 12 affected LGAs and who are required to self-isolate and can't work while they're waiting for their test result. That applies to anyone over 17 years or over who meets the eligibility criteria and agree to follow the guidelines or waiting for the COVID test result. And finally, I just want to talk about some mental health support and training that's available for free through Safe Work New South Wales, a really important service for all business owners. So I'd please encourage you to have a look at that Safe Work New South Wales service. And I'll stop sharing now.
One of the questions was relating to the tiers. The biggest question that we've heard that we've got from the businesses is the different tiers, right? So just to be clear, from a revenue turnover perspective, 75,000 plus is applicable for 2 of the 3 grants that you highlighted in the page. But the micro business grant, that has a minimum, a level of what, 30,000, did you say?
That's right. So from 30,000 to 75,000 aggregated turnover.
And it must be as of the last financial year, which is 30 June 2020.
I'm going to throw to Deanie. Deanie's
okay, sorry.
She's my expert. So Deanie, over to you.
I was going to say, I'm probably not the expert. Jess Shearer, who I brought in with me as well. Jess has been manning our phones and doing a huge amount of work. And I might just bring her in on this as well about the the turnover that they're talking about. Jess, are you around?
Yeah, I am. So we use it from the financial year ending 2020, but we can use alternative circumstances if they don't meet that for the year ending 2020 due to like natural disaster, COVID, things like that. So they just need to contact us and we can run through with them what we can use for alternative circumstances. So if they're like a new business, say that started after 2020, they can use what they call a similar period, and if they can show that they're earning that.
Got it.
So they'll just need to provide alternative documents to show.
Okay, so if the business started in January 2020, right?
Yep.
And so they only had 6 months of run rate as at 30 June, they could still show some sort of a forecast or alternative means to say, look, we were on good run rate or a good track record.
So they'd even look at documents from like July 2020 to the even to the end of the 2021 year. If they have their tax affairs in order for that, we can look at those documents too, just to show that they did meet the criteria. So we can look at alternative circumstances. And
so say, and this is particularly important for businesses that might just miss out on the 75K thresholds, if you know what I mean, right? So,
So businesses who may have earned 75K in 2019, the financial year ending 2019, didn't earn 75K in the 2020 financial year due to COVID or bushfires, we can then use that 2018-2019 financial year, or we can use BASs for the first 3 periods of the 2020-21 financial year to show that they've met the criteria.
Got it. So any sort of history is applicable and alternative tests are available, like the job seeker and other things. Okay, got it. And that information is on your website. That's sort of the alternative test. It does
tell them to contact us and we will go through their circumstances with us.
Now, the other question I wanted to just check with you, this is just as a specific one. For startups and sole traders, this stuff is still applicable as long as you meet the income test and you can show evidence of meeting the income test. Is that correct?
Yeah, so sole traders can apply for the grants. So whether they're earning over 75K or the 30 to 75K, they can still apply as long as they meet the eligibility criteria. And startups definitely. So anyone, who started in between or after the financial year last year, so that started in, say July or August 2020, they can still apply for the grant as long as they can supply evidence that they meet the eligibility criteria.
Is there a particular point of registering the current income that's been impacted? What period am I measuring against the past income?
Okay, so for the income, like it says, they have experienced a decline in turnover of 30% more due to the public health order over a minimum 2-week period within the Greater Sydney lockdown. The COVID business grant, the comparison period is the 26th of June 2021 to the 17th of July 2021.
Right, 26th
for the micro business grant and the job saver, the period is the 26th of June 2021 and due to end 28th of August 21. They compare those to the same period in 2019, the same period in 2020, or the 2-week period immediately before the lockdown start of the Greater Sydney.
Before they were impacted.
So the 12th of June to the 25th of June.
12th of June, 25th of June. Okay. Is there a cut-off date? Are businesses expected to have made an application by certain dates?
The COVID business grant close date is the 13th of September and job saver and micro business grant is the 18th of October.